We really do care about each other when it matters, don't we? That's what I see in times of tragic events. I see that humanity does come together. And our nation at that point in time was more united than any time I've ever seen since I've been alive. And that was absolutely a beautiful thing to watch. Didn't matter if you were Buddhist, Catholic, Hindu, Muslim, atheist, none of those things mattered. Everybody was touched in some way by that terrible event. And so we are just so grateful that we're here today and that we're in a better place than we were then. So, my talk this morning is entitled, To Live in Peace. And we can, it's up to each one of us individually, and that is what I want to talk about this morning. You know, I take peace very seriously. Some of you know me well enough to know that. I think as a kid, world peace was one of those things that I would always talk about. I could have been in the Miss Universe contest. I'm just saying. Except, of course, for the weight and the, you know. Other than that, I could have been. Yeah, we got to lighten things up a little bit here today. So I'm sure not only 15 years ago did all of us feel some level of fear. There are times in our lives where we experience fear and we feel that sense of fear. This is what Thich Nhat Hanh says about that. Fear keeps us focused on the past or worried about the future. If we can acknowledge our fear, we can realize that right now we are okay. Right now, today, we are still alive and our bodies are working marvelously. Our eyes can still see the beautiful sky and our voices still hear. And our ears can still hear the voices of our loved ones. And I just really felt like today in particular that was incredibly appropriate and really, really beautiful. Fear and anger and resentment are all those emotions that would greatly benefit us if we could just let them go and just release them. They don't serve a beneficial purpose for us when we hold on to them so tightly. What they do is it changes us. It changes how we feel about and how we see the world and how we act and react in the world. And that isn't always a great thing to do. We get that shield up. We put that wall in front of us. There's a variation of a quote that I want to share with you, but it's been attributed to so many different people, we're going to call it anonymous. And that is, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other guy dies, right? Well, that's the same thing with that fear, with anger. It's pointless to hold on to those things or any destructive emotion simply because it's hurting us. It doesn't hurt anybody else. We're the ones that hold on to that and keep that inside of us. And it's so important for us to remember, no matter where we live, no matter what religion we practice, what culture we come from, at the heart of it all, we're all human. Every single one of us are human beings. We all hold on to those same ambitions, those same aspirations. We all want to live in peace. We all want to live life to its fullest, experience that unconditional love, whether we're receiving it or we're giving it. Our cultural, religious, political differences do not need to be a catalyst for conflicts. Those things bring about sadness and destruction to our world. However, we do see it. I know that. I'm not pretending it isn't there. What I'm saying today is we don't have to be that. There's a big difference. If we feel compelled to wish harm to another person because we believe that their action deserves an equally atrocious action, then we too are perpetuating that anger and that violence. Have you ever looked at it that way? It's all up here. How are we thinking in our mind? How are we feeling in our heart? We are called to replace that anger and that fear with forgiveness and with love. To seek the way of living peacefully, to be consistently and continually present in each and every single moment. Dwelling on that which we think should have happened and reliving the past keeps that negativity living within us. And that's what's bringing us that internal conflict that we feel, that unrest, rather, what we feel. We're bringing that on ourselves. And I think a lot of times we don't realize we're doing that. We don't realize it because we get into that mindset of this is the way I think, this is how I feel, this is what I do. Forgiveness is what's going to move us out of that fear. It's about learning to work through those negative emotions as a result of what's transpired in the past, letting them go, not burying those emotions, moving through them, working through them, and releasing them. In forgiving, we experience and cultivate compassion. And that's where we want to stay, is in that compassion. As we do that, it helps us to understand someone's motivation. Now, I'm not saying that we have to agree with them. I'm not saying we have to like their motivation. It just, by being open, it just gives us an idea, a better idea to understand that person or persons or situation that we are working to forgive. What I've noticed in my 59 short years is that life seems to be an adventure in forgiveness, both of ourselves and of others. Have you had that same experience? It seems like it's one of those consistent things. We're always saying, trying to forgive. Martin Luther King Jr. said this: forgiveness is not an occasional act. It's a permanent attitude. I think he had it right. If we can stay open and in that space of forgiving all the time, we are in a much better place, more balanced, more harmonized within ourselves. Because as we forgive, we become free. Free of those feelings inside that gnaw at us, the bitterness, the anger, the resentment. And in the freedom, we find ourselves. We can't help but move into that space of compassion. And then we're free to be at peace both within, and we see that peace without. The practice of forgiveness is not only an important contribution to you, it's a contribution, a very important one, to the healing of our planet, of our world. Forgiveness is the key to creating a peaceful, just, and sustainable world. And it's only when we can bring compassion into that mix that it's possible to forgive. Living in peace is about living harmoniously, not just with yourself, with everybody else as well. Although we know it always starts with us. It always begins right here. It means being nonviolent. It means being tolerant. It means celebrating the beauty of life, not focusing on the other stuff. Living in peace is a way of life in which we honor, respect, and love each other, no matter our cultural or religious or political differences. We all need to search our hearts to understand and realize that it's fear which causes that impulse to violence. That's what's behind it, is simply fear. And if we ignore our own anger, our own fear that we're holding on to, we aren't going to experience that peace that we so desire, that we are so searching for and wanting. We're called to be open. We're called to love other people. We're called to not judge other people. Certainly not control them or even try. We can't control them, and we know that. We are absolutely not able to impose our will or our thinking upon anybody else. Now, my guess is, like me, you've tried. And it doesn't work. Now, we also know that not all conflict can be avoided. However, we can handle conflict through peace by not responding to it in kind. Conflicts tend to rise out of one person or another maybe wanting more power, or out of misunderstandings. So we want to remember to always communicate clearly, and remember to choose peace before power. Thich Nhat Hanh offers us this, and this is, again, very appropriate for today. We often think of peace as the absence of war. That if powerful countries would reduce their weapon arsenals, we could have peace. But if we look deeply into the weapons, we see our own minds, our own prejudices, fears, and ignorance. Even if we transport all the bombs to the moon, the roots of war and the roots of bombs are still there in our hearts and minds. And sooner or later, we will make new bombs. To work for peace is to uproot war from ourselves and from the hearts of men and women. To prepare for war, to give millions of men and women the opportunity to practice killing day and night in their hearts, is to plant millions of seeds of violence, anger, frustration, and fear that will be passed on for generations to come. Root out the violence in your life. Learn to live compassionately and mindfully. Seek peace. When you have that peace within, real peace with others is possible. So it isn't just about the stuff we have. It isn't just about the physical bombs or the guns. It's about the mindset. Does that make sense to you? If we got rid of all that stuff, is what he's saying, it's still here. We still need to work on that. That's why it's so important for us to be at peace, because again, it always begins here. And if we're peaceful and we share that peace with somebody else, and they share two friends, etc., right? Then before you know it, the whole world is at peace. And that is our goal. We want to be open and honest with ourselves about what's in our heart, what's in our mind. How are we feeling about others? Are we flexible thinkers? Are we open-minded to different possibilities? Because if we think in absolutes and we hold on to our convictions without even considering other viewpoints or other perspectives, that's a sure way to live without peace. When we do that, it can lead us to reactive and dare I even say hasty behavior. It's reacting without reflective thinking. And although that type of thinking allows us to have that confidence in our absolute conviction, it blocks out any other realities that may want to come in. It can easily lead us into conflict when other people don't agree with us. It's work to remain open sometimes, isn't it? Especially when you know you're right. True? Yet, at the same time, it's much more rewarding to be open, because as you do that, you'll grow through it. And you'll live in greater harmony with yourself and with others. Know and accept that your beliefs, your faiths, your passions, your opinions are only among some of the beliefs, faiths, passions, and opinions that exist out there. Follow the one absolute truth. Treat others as you wish to be treated. Not necessarily how they've treated you. That's out. You don't get that one. Practicing tolerance is at the absolute heart of living peacefully. Tolerance in all you think and do makes a difference makes a difference in your life, and it makes a difference in the lives of other people as well. It's about appreciating diversity and being willing to live and let live. And if we fail to tolerate others' beliefs, ways of being, and opinions, the end result turns into what? Discrimination. And even, in some cases, violence, be it physical or mental. Rather than jumping to negative conclusions about people and thoughts and beliefs and labels and that kind of thing, I say let's work on changing our perspective. Let's work on encouraging and nurturing the good in other people. Everybody has it. Yes, I said everybody. Everybody has good. Sometimes it's difficult and challenging to see. It's there. The only thing that makes situations negative is the opinion that you're holding in your mind. So Gandhi said, there are many causes I'm prepared to die for, but no cause that I'm prepared to kill for. That's the epitome of living in peace, right? A peaceful person does not use violence. To be peaceful is to act with compassion. Reacting with compassion inevitably results in much better outcomes for all concerned. If somebody hurts us physically or emotionally, mentally, we don't want to react with anger or violence. Stop, pause, think it through. Choose to respond as opposed to react. Learn to break that habit of seeing people solely from your own perspective. It will stir that compassionate part of you. And if you find yourself wanting to react instead of respond to a particular situation, use Thich Nhat Hanh's very short meditation. It's very beautiful and simple. Breathing in, I calm my body and my mind, and breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the only moment. Is that not a beautiful reminder? We're going to do that real quick. Just sit for a second with me. Breathing in, and just say this to yourself. Breathing in, I calm my mind and body. And breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in this present moment, I know this is the only moment. Breathing in, I calm my mind and body. And breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the only moment. And it's such a beautiful reminder. And if we find ourselves getting worked up or upset or angry or frustrated or whatever else, it's quick and easy, and it brings you back to center pretty darn quickly. It certainly can. If we don't have that inner peace, we're going to remain with that inner conflict, that nudge that we get. So make conscious decision about what improves, what beautifies your life. Living in peace means more than living with the absence of violence. Cultivate peace in all areas of your life. Reduce stress as much as possible. Like this weekend, don't drive the 91. Hot tip of the day. That'll be some serious stress, won't it? Really, though, you want to reduce that stress as much as you possibly can. And you want to live in joy. Wouldn't you rather live in joy than anger, fear, stress? I mean, joy is a great place to be. Choose to see and enjoy the beauty of this world. It's hard to be angry or fearful when you see the world and all its inhabitants as beautiful, as miraculous, amazing, and joyful. Joy brings peace to our life because we're always prepared to see the good in others, the good in the world. I'm going to close this morning with a beautiful quote from a Native American teacher by the name of Starhawk. The Hopis say that we all began together, that each race went on a journey to its own road to power and changed. that now is the time for us to return, to put the pieces of the puzzle back together again, to make that circle whole. So thank you so much for being here this morning while I shared this truth as I understand it.